You wake up, and before your eyes even adjust to the light, your hand's already moving. Swipe, tap, scroll. It's instinct now, but not a neutral one. Your nervous system is searching, not for joy, not for meaning, but for something fast, something loud, something that shields you from whatever silence might be trying to speak. It starts there. Then music in your headphones. A reel while you brush your teeth. Something funny, something dramatic, something to keep you distracted. On the surface, you call it entertainment, but on a deeper level, it's escape. You say, I'm just checking. But what you're really saying is, I don't want to feel what's here. And that makes sense, because when the stimulation stops, when it's just you, when it's quiet, something heavy rises, an unease, a restlessness, a subtle ache. You probably don't even name it anymore. You just reach for the next hit. You think you're chasing pleasure, but really you're avoiding pain. Not addiction to pleasure, but repetition of avoidance. This isn't just about habits. This is about your relationship with pain, or rather, your fear of it. And that fear has been running the show longer than you realize. We like to call it pleasure. We say things like, I just need a break. I deserve this. This makes me feel better. But let's be honest, most of what we call pleasure doesn't actually feel good. It just feels like relief. A break from the tension, a distraction from the ache. Relief isn't joy, it's absence. A moment where you don't have to feel. And sometimes that absence feels better than anything, because presence hurts. Not because there's something wrong with you, but because there's something inside you that has never been felt fully. And now, it's loud. You can't scroll it away. You can't climax it away. You can't sugar shop, stream, or skip it away. You've trained your nervous system to survive, not to feel. To avoid, not to integrate. And so, you reach for a device, for a screen, for another small moment of disconnection dressed as pleasure. But here's the shift. You're not addicted to stimulation. You're addicted to not being with yourself. Because somewhere in you, there's a buried belief. If I slow down, I'll drown. If I stop running, I'll collapse. If I sit with what I feel, it'll destroy me. And that's not addiction. That's protection. Addiction is just the visible layer. What lies beneath it is fear. And beneath that, pain. Not the loud kind, but the kind that's lived inside you, quietly, for years. There's a moment, right before the scrolling starts, right before the video plays, right before the next spike of dopamine hits, when something stirs in your chest. It's quick, subtle, almost invisible, but it's there. A flicker of restlessness, a knot of unease, a tension that doesn't come from outside you, but from deep within. You might think it's boredom. It's not. It's a signal. It's your body saying, there's something here, please listen. But instead of listening, you run. Not because you're weak, but because no one ever taught you how to stay. Maybe what you're avoiding is grief. The kind that never had a place to go. The kind you had to hide to survive. Maybe it's shame. Old, silent, still echoing inside you. Not from one moment, but from 100 small ways the world taught you, you're too much. You're not enough. Maybe it's loneliness, not just being alone, but the ache of never feeling fully seen. This is the pain that lives underneath the craving, and pleasure is just how you try to forget it exists. Carl Jung called this the shadow. Everything you've repressed, rejected, or denied about yourself. Not because it's wrong, but because it was once unsafe to feel. And when the shadow isn't faced, it doesn't disappear. It leaks. It hides behind cravings, compulsions, reflexes. What you don't bring into the light controls you from the dark. This is the truth behind the habit. You're not scrolling for fun. You're not watching to feel alive. You're not craving because you're broken. You're craving because something inside you is trying to be felt. And all your life, you've been trying to silence it. Let's talk about the part that feels like science but hits like a trap. Dopamine. Everyone says it's the pleasure chemical, but it's not. Dopamine doesn't give you joy, it gives you pursuit. It's the spark that makes you reach, not the satisfaction of arriving. And when you're in pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, even the pain you haven't admitted to yourself, dopamine becomes a shortcut. Not to healing, but to forgetting. Here's how the cycle works. You see something. It pulls you in. You get that little hit, that spike, then it fades, and you crash. And in that crash, the pain comes back louder. So you reach again, stimulus, spike, crash, repeat, 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 until this becomes your baseline, your emotional default. A way of life that feels normal, but is actually just tolerable suffering wrapped in stimulation. The scariest part, you start to mistake this loop for identity. You start to believe, I just need constant input. I just have an addictive personality. Maybe this is just how I am. But that's not who you are. That's just who you became when your brain learned to avoid the crash at all costs. You don't fear the craving. You fear the quiet that follows. Because in that quiet is your shadow. And your system doesn't want to meet it. It would rather stay stimulated than still. Distracted than whole. Because stimulation is fast. Stillness is honest. And honesty might reveal the very thing you've been running from your entire life. Let's talk about one of the most powerful and most misunderstood coping loops of all. Porn. Not from a place of shame, not from morality, just from truth. Porn doesn't just offer stimulation, it offers something deeper, the illusion of intimacy without the threat of vulnerability. No rejection, no awkwardness, no risk of being seen, only control, only escape. Only pixels that never ask anything from you, except attention. It simulates connection, while keeping you completely untouched. In the moment, it feels like relief. But the moment always ends. And when it does, you're not satisfied. You're hollow, more disconnected than when you began. And you don't even know why. Because here's the truth. Porn bypasses the soul. The body reacts. The brain gets a spike. But your core, the part of you that wants to be known, to be loved, to be safe, stays untouched. You climax, but nothing in you feels closer to anything real. The pain returns, and with it, the craving. Not for more sex, but for something true. Jung would say, you're not engaging with real connection. You're encountering a digital version of your own anima, the sacred inner feminine, the symbol of vulnerability, emotion, creation, but only through a screen. Never embodied, never integrated, and because of that, the hunger never ends. The body gets release, the soul stays starving. This isn't about stopping, this isn't about guilt. This is about waking up to the fact that what you call pleasure might actually be ritualized disconnection. Not because you're broken, but because somewhere along the way, real closeness started to feel too dangerous. So you found a substitute, a safer version, a shortcut. But every shortcut has a cost. And this one, the cost is your intimacy, your presence, your capacity to feel something real and stay. Let's be honest. You've tried, you've said, never again. You've deleted the app, blocked the site, made the list. You've promised yourself that this time would be different. And still, the urge returns. You think this means you're broken. You think it proves you're weak. But the truth is deeper and more human. You don't keep going back because you want to. You keep going back because you don't know how to stay. Stay in the discomfort. Stay in the emptiness. Stay in your own presence long enough to hear what it's trying to say. Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body, a living memory of every hurt, every wound, every moment you didn't know how to process. It stays inside you, waiting for a moment of quiet, for an opening, and the moment silence appears, so does it. An ache in your chest, a weight in your stomach, a tightening in your throat. Not because something's wrong now, but because something was never healed then. The craving you feel isn't a malfunction, it's a message. Your nervous system has learned. Feeling this is dangerous, run. So you do, into pleasure, into porn, into scrolling, into anything that can distract you from yourself. And that loop becomes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone avoiding pain and start seeing yourself as someone who's just like this. But you're not. This isn't who you are. It's who you became when no one showed you how to hold your hurt with gentleness instead of guilt. You're not addicted to pleasure, you're addicted to protection. And every craving is your inner self asking, "Can you feel me now?" You don't heal by rejecting the craving, you heal by listening to it, because what you've been calling weakness might actually be the first sign of life from a part of you that's been waiting to come home. Let's zoom out, beyond the habits, beyond the dopamine, beyond the pain. What if the real thing you're escaping is meaninglessness? You weren't born hungry for stimulation. You were born hungry for connection, for wonder, for something that gave your life weight. But somewhere along the way, that got buried. Your aliveness was traded for productivity. Your intuition was replaced with algorithms. Your purpose? Outsourced to people who never asked what your soul actually needed. So now you chase moments, small spikes, tiny hits of distraction that make the emptiness feel less obvious. But deep down you know, this isn't about dopamine anymore. This is about the soul. The feeling that no matter how much you consume, you're still starving. Not for content, not for sex, not for success, but for something real. You don't need another hit. You need to remember who you are without one. And to do that, you have to stop running from the void and start asking what it's trying to show you. Because maybe the emptiness isn't a flaw. Maybe it's a signal, a sacred space inside you that refuses to be filled with noise. The emptiness isn't asking for pleasure. It's asking for presence. But presence takes courage, and when you've been numb for a long time, even a small moment of clarity can feel overwhelming. So you scroll, you click, you distract yourself from the call, but the call doesn't go away. And one day it will get loud enough that you can't ignore it anymore. And when that happens, you'll realize something. You never wanted stimulation. You wanted meaning. You wanted your life to matter. And deep down, you still do. Here's what no one ever taught you. Pain isn't your enemy. It's your portal, the doorway back to yourself, the fire that burns away the distractions, the teacher you've been avoiding because you thought it came to punish you. But it didn't. It came to reveal you. What if the pain wasn't trying to break you, but to bring you back? You've spent so long avoiding it, covering it with pleasure, drowning it in noise, spinning in loops that never let you stop long enough to feel it fully. But what if feeling it was the very thing that sets you free? The pain body doesn't just hold your suffering, it holds your story. Everything you didn't get to say, everything you had to suppress to survive, everything that still lives inside you, waiting to be witnessed. It doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to be integrated, to be accepted, to be felt without judgment, to stop screaming, because it finally feels safe. You can't numb the pain and expect to keep your depth. You can't avoid the darkness and expect to know your light. Pain is part of the path, not as punishment, but as initiation. And if you can stop running long enough to feel it, really feel it, you'll notice something strange. It passes, it moves, it changes shape, and behind it, there's space, stillness, strength, not because you escaped it, but because you moved through it. This is the beginning of real transformation. Not self-control, not self-denial, but self-return. The pain you've been avoiding is the very gate you must walk through to meet the version of you that doesn't need to run anymore. Every myth has a moment, a test, a confrontation. The place the hero stands still and sees the dragon for the first time. The dragon isn't always fire and scales. Sometimes it looks like a craving, a habit, a voice in your head that says, just one more scroll, one more hit, one more escape. And for most of your life, you've believed that voice. You've let it guide you, because the dragon seemed too big, too scary, too much. But here's the truth buried in myth. The dragon you're running from is guarding your transformation. And the only way forward is through it. You think the enemy is the urge, but the urge is just the messenger. The real dragon, it's your shame, your grief, your fear of being fully seen, warts, wounds, and all. You've been conditioned to run, to avoid the fire, to seek comfort instead of courage. But you can't avoid the dragon forever, because the longer you run, the more power it gains. And the moment you stop, not to fight it but to face it, you realize something shocking. The dragon isn't here to destroy you. It's here to burn away everything that isn't you. This is the turning point. The pain you've repressed, the shadow you've ignored, the feelings you've labeled as weakness, they are your trial. Your rite of passage, your initiation into wholeness. You don't need more willpower. You need a sword made of truth and the willingness to walk into the cave anyway. Jung said, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." But it's more than treasure. It's you, the real you, the one who doesn't need distraction, the one who doesn't collapse in discomfort, the one who feels everything and still stands. You don't need to quit everything overnight. You don't need to punish yourself or wage war against your cravings. You've already done enough running. Now it's time to return, not to a system, not to a rule book, but to yourself. This isn't about discipline. This is about devotion, tiny acts of presence done with intention. Here are a few ways to begin. 1. Delay, not deny. The next time the craving comes, don't shame it, just pause. Say out loud, "I feel the urge, I'm not obeying it immediately." Even 30 seconds of awareness rewrites the pattern. 2. Feel it in the body. Where does the urge live? Your chest? Your stomach? Place a hand there. Breathe, name the feeling, let it rise, let it pass. Every time you do this, you're telling your pain, "I'm not afraid of you anymore." 3. Create space for silence. No music, no podcast, no scrolling. Just 10 minutes. Eyes open, present. Let the discomfort come. It's not the enemy, it's the entry point. 4. Replace reaction with reflection. When you reach for your phone, ask, "What am I trying not to feel right now?" Write the answer. Even just one sentence, this turns compulsion into conversation. 5. Speak to the part of you that hurts, out loud. Like you're talking to a child who's been hiding under the bed. Say, "You're safe now, I'm listening," because that part of you isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to be held. These aren't productivity hacks. These are soul rituals, small, sacred shifts that bring you out of avoidance and into alignment. You won't get it perfect. That's not the point. The point is that every time you choose presence, no matter how small, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Healing isn't an explosion. It's a slow remembering, a soft rebellion against a world that told you to stay numb. You used to think freedom was doing whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted, more pleasure, fewer rules, no limits. But that wasn't freedom. That was indulgence. And indulgence without awareness eventually becomes a cage, because when your actions aren't choices, they're reflexes. You're not free. You're just predictable, and a predictable person is easy to control, easy to distract, easy to sell to, easy to silence. Real freedom isn't about getting what you want. It's about being able to sit with what you feel without needing to run from it. It's not about control, it's about clarity. Clarity says, "I feel the craving and I still choose presence." Clarity says, "I feel the discomfort and I don't abandon myself." This isn't the loud, rebellious kind of freedom. This is the quiet kind, the sacred kind, the kind that comes when your mind no longer owns you, when your wounds no longer run the show, when your pain no longer dictates your behavior, when pleasure becomes something you savor, not something you depend on. This is the deeper rebellion, not against the world, but against the programming that told you, "You're too fragile. You need this to cope. You can't sit still. You're not safe in silence." You are. You're safe in your body. You're safe in your depth. You're safe in the space between cravings, because that's where your real self lives. Not the one performing for relief, but the one that simply is. If you've made it this far, it means something in you is already changing. Not the surface, not the habit, but the awareness underneath it all. You no longer believe the old story. that you're weak, broken, compulsive. Now you know. You were never addicted to pleasure. You were numbing the pain, and that pain, it wasn't a flaw. It was a message. It was the part of you waiting to be seen. The shadow you avoided is still with you. But now you see it. You're not pushing it away. You're turning toward it. The pain body still stirs, but now you hold space for it. You breathe through it. You don't flinch. And the dragon you kept running from, it hasn't disappeared. But maybe now, you're ready to face it. Because you understand, the craving isn't your enemy. It's your invitation. Back to the body. Back to the soul. Back to what's real. You don't need to escape anymore. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to live from a place deeper than distraction. You don't need more noise. You need your own presence. So the next time you feel the urge, pause. Not to shame it, but to listen. Say, I see you. I know why you're here. But I'm here now too. And I'm not going anywhere. If this resonated with you, tell me in the comments what part of you is waking up. Not for me, but for you. Because putting it into words is how you anchor the change. And if you're ready to go deeper, to keep peeling back the layers, to walk your path with clarity and courage, you're not alone. This is what we do here. This is what Psytheon is for. Hit subscribe, stay close. We're just getting started.